You are tuned in live to the season premiere of the Spots We Miss podcast and live talk with your host, Niketa Nikol. Today's special guests are Niketa Coleman, founder of Valadia HR, and Janelle Binding, sign language interpreter and special educator. Today we'll be discussing your mental health. Is your mental health intact or are you playing hurt? Also, how do we get Michiganders back to work? More of that ahead in the podcast. Right now, we want you to like our social platforms. We're on Facebook as Dippity Dewdrops, Twitter as Dippity Dewdrops, Instagram and YouTube as Niketa Nikol. We also want you to like our lifestyle blog. You can find that link in the description box. Get ready for real talk, real ideas, and real love. You're tuned in to the Spots We Miss. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the Spots We Miss podcast and live talk. I am your host, Niketa Nikol, and I am so glad that you guys have joined me today. I want to give you a little bit of some background on the Spots We Miss and how I came up with that. So one day I was just thinking, and I was thinking about like even like when you shower, even when you're cleaning up the house, you can miss a spot. You ever been cleaning a window or a mirror or some glass and someone says you missed a spot? Well, we miss spots as humans. And sometimes we have to go back to that spot that we missed because sometimes they can be really, really important spots that we miss. So I wanted to talk about that, and that's why I named this podcast The Spots We Miss. We have some really cool things happening today on the podcast. I'm really excited about it. We have a couple special guests. But first, I want to invite you guys to like our social platforms if you haven't already. We are on YouTube as Niketa Nikol. Please subscribe to our channel. Like us on Facebook, and our Facebook page is Dippity Dewdrops, as well as Niketa Woodley, and on Instagram as Niketa Nikol. The more you like our channels and subscribe, it really helps our algorithms, and it gets our podcast and our video out to more people. And I really do think that this podcast is going to be really a blessing to so many people. If it has been a blessing to you, please share and like and subscribe. All right. Well, this podcast is comprised of 3 segments. And the first segment is just our introduction, talking about what it is we're going to discuss on the show. And then the second one is our pandemic fallout report. And what that is we can't ignore that we are in a pandemic. And because we are in a pandemic, it's just important to talk about those numbers, talk about where we are, how we're feeling, and what we're noticing and what we're actually seeing. And one of the things that I noticed, and not just me, but other people, we've noticed that, have you seen when you go to either, your Taco Bell's, your McDonald's, Burger King, everywhere we go, just about, there are hiring signs in the window. And even now, I even just noticed that McDonald's is now putting the hourly rate on the window of what it is that they're going to pay. And that, to me, that rings, we need help really bad, and we've got to do more. And they're putting the actual amount of what they're paying on the windows. And so, and I want to say was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, I went to several places that were only taking online orders. Some of them were closed, and some of them were short-staffed. And that is a growing problem in Michigan. And if we don't mend this, we are on our way to a employee shortage crisis. And so, hello, Todd. Hi, Anthony Arrington. I see you're in the comments here. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us. But if we don't discuss this, and if employers don't do something about this, we're headed toward a crisis. And so I have special guest Niketa Coleman. She's the founder of Valadia HR, and she is what I consider a human resource expert. She has done the work, and she has um, not only has she done the work, but she knows what she's talking about. So I want to welcome you, Niketa, to the show, and thanks for coming on. I'm going to let you talk about what it is that you do. Let our audience know.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you.
Awesome. I hope you're staying dry today. Thank you for having me. My name is Cherkessa. I am the lead consultant and CEO of Lady HR, and I love helping small to medium-sized businesses save time and money by getting the right people in place and helping them stay. You have brought about a very important topic as far as employment in Michigan right now. I'm sure most people know the unemployment rate is about 4.9%. And the businesses that are taking the biggest brunt or the biggest hit from all of this are food service businesses. So, which is my industry of choice in collaboration with retail. So, I spent a lot of time in retail. I've spent a lot of time in food service, and when you talk about unemployment, the food service is really, really struggling. And I know you and I know me, and we like to eat. So we've gone on some one trips that ended up being a dummy mission.
Yes.
So um, so
Yes.
right now, I completely, I'm so excited to be here. Even though the unemployment is around 4.9%, there have been a large amount of people who have returned to work, nearly 500,000 people. However, they're not going where we need them at, right? They're not going to the food service, they're not going to the retail. And I'm not going to say I blame them because a lot of employers really do need to look at the culture that they're showing and how they're broadcasting their businesses.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a few reasons for that. You know, one of the reasons, which is very common, is childcare. A lot of people aren't ready to go back to work if they don't have someone to care for their child or their adult dependent. Some people have adult dependent. Another common reason is a lot of baby boomers decided, why go back? I was going to retire anyway, or, you know, or I'm here well past my retirement, right? Some people are working just to keep busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then don't forget about the pandemic unemployment is a gift and a curse. You know, you create a way for people to sustain, take care of their families.
Mm-hmm.
You create a sense of comfort that's very difficult to shake.
Yeah.
A sense of safety. You know, people feel safe at home. So that goes into my next reason. A lot of people are very afraid still to return to the workforce. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's got a few agoraphobics out of this whole mess. Getting deliveries to your house has made it very, you know, lots of things have fallen into place that have made it very comfortable to stay at home. So when you think about, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I can save it, but that made me think of something. Go ahead.
Okay. When you think about what comes next, you know, is there a improvement in sight? Absolutely. Is it going to happen like that? Absolutely not. You know, we're one of the states that hasn't yet, you know, taken away that $300.
Right.
So that's going to take us a little longer to turn that bend than maybe some other states. But all is not lost. It's not like there's nothing that employers can do. It's not like there's no options out there. So when I talk about that part of it, I'm gonna give you a second because I think you had something you wanted to say. But
Well, you said something and it triggered something that I was thinking about. People have just really gotten comfortable with not going at work. And a lot of people have gotten comfortable working from home too. But then I also think about people who had moonlighting jobs. You know, moonlighting jobs are those jobs that you like to do them on the side, but they're not supplemental. It's not supplementing your income. So you can't like leave your job to do it. But so there may be people who likes to bake. You know, they cook well, and they started a full-on catering company during the pandemic and said, you know what, I'm not going to go back to work. And I was talking to a young lady regarding this podcast, and I was asking her, you know, have you noticed just a shortage of employees? And she said, oh yeah. And she said, everywhere you go, she said, I can see that there is a staffing issue. And she said she started a business in the pandemic, and she said, I would lose money if I went back to work. She said, so I'm not going back. She started a bartending company, a mobile bartending company. Um, and she said, I would lose money if I went back to work. And she's one of those people who, didn't go back to work. And then I think about the people, sadly, but this is our reality in this pandemic. Sadly, there are people who did not make it, physically did not make it through the pandemic. And that brings me to my next thing that I want to give you guys some numbers. In Michigan, in the United States, there have been 33.6 million cases reported of the coronavirus and over 600,000 deaths in the United States. In Michigan, that number, we're at 1 million, almost at 1 million cases, and we are at 22,000, almost 22,000 deaths as a result of the coronavirus. Now, that it's obvious that some people just didn't make it to go back to work. So that's a sad reality.
Agreed. And as well, and those children, they need care, and who knows what's going on in that. I mean, it's just a ripple effect. Everything that happens, it ripples and affects everybody. And that's one of the reasons why I said affected, personally affected, or their loved ones were affected, because it ripples, through the entire family. And now you actually spoke on one of my other reasons. A lot of businesses were born out of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So why go back? Why take that? And I do, like I said, I do agree with what's being mentioned in the news, that eventually it will improve. When they remove the pandemic unemployment, it just won't happen as quickly as businesses need. I'm still heartbroken. My neighborhood Panera is still closed. Things that it calls you to put things in perspective, in your life, because we take things for granted.
Yeah, we do.
But when you talk about what employers can do, I'm going to try to run through those really quick, because I'm really excited for the next part of the podcast.
Okay.
When you talk about what can businesses do, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. So if I mention something that may not apply to you, maybe it applies to someone else. So just roll with it. So when you think about your applicant pool, you got to be realistic. You're not the only business pulling from that same applicant pool. So why stick to that applicant pool? If it's not working, shake it up, dip out a mile or two, and see if you can find some different applicants. And you really, to be honest with you, you really kind of have to get dirty right now. You kind of have to go into your neighbor business. You have to go in your competition. You have to go into different places than you've ever gone before. And that brings me to my next point. Stop waiting on applicants to come to you.
Yes.
They're not enticed enough right now because they're comfortable. So you do have to dig deep and start using some of these resources that allow you to view resumes, seek them out. See if you can pitch to them.
Yeah.
Which is another part. Who are you pitching to? Do you understand your market? Your talent pool is like your target market, right?
Right.
Which is one of the other statements. Market your postings the same way you market your business.
That's right.
You got out there, right? You put this product out there. You put this business out there. You're on all the platforms. You're throwing up flyers. Do the same thing, if not more, for these positions. And who are you trying to hire? Are you looking for career-driven Generation Z? Are you looking for purpose-driven millennials? Or are you looking for the independent, autonomy-driven experts like myself?
Right.
So you really have to know your generation and what drives them to come to you, so that you can properly market these job postings to who you're trying to market them to.
I think that people are going to have to be very creative, as you're saying right now. As I mentioned earlier, McDonald's putting the $13, $14 an hour on the window. You don't really see that. I've not seen that. Very, very seldom have I ever really seen that. And so definitely thinking outside the box, doing more, and incentivize.
So that was the other thing. Yes. So I have two more small things. A lot of people do try referrals and signing bonuses. They're good for a moment. If you don't have a good performance plan or something tiered for them to strive for, you're just looking at that turnaround and keep turning around pretty much. And then the other thing is hire minors. Don't forget about the minors. The babies want to work. Look at your job descriptions. Are your job descriptions really full of things that an 18-year-old can't do? You can take those job tasks and create a job description as legally allowed for a person who's not 18 or under. So those are just a few things. I mean, I'm sure there's many ways that work and don't work, but those are just a few things that I think would put things in perspective.
It's interesting that you said about the kids. We were having lunch today, and there was a guy. I was asking him how had things been in the restaurant that he worked at after everything had opened, and how is their hiring going. And he said that they needed 2 people. He said, but we're pretty okay. He said, but what he has noticed is that people are hiring kids now, a lot of kids now. Because kids are not afraid to get their hands dirty, and they love to have cash in their pockets. You know
That's
what I
what
mean?
they're motivated by instant gratification, absolutely.
Yes,
And
yes,
at the same time, they have something to prove too. They're independent. So
yes.
think about how we all felt when we got our first job and came home with our first paycheck. Didn't have
Mm-hmm.
any real responsibilities, right?
Yes,
You just do what you want. And then we got real jobs, right?
right. Listen, you couldn't tell me nothing when I got my first job, and I was getting paid every week. What?
Yes.
And I might be telling my age, but my first job was $4 an hour. And listen, and he was paying me under the table, so you couldn't tell me nothing about that cash that I had in my hands. So yeah,
Yes.
it's I think it's a great I think it's a great idea to hire kids. I really, really do. I hope that we can see a turnaround. I hope that we can see a change because, we like to eat. And, I think probably what led me to talk about this is because, I have an entrepreneur spirit. So when I see things like Qdoba, and I there's a post on my blog, you guys can check it out. It's called employee shortage in Michigan with the question mark. You can check that out. But I talk about an experience where I went to Qdoba I was taking a quick lunch break just last week, and I go in and it's really hot in there. It's not really no one's in there. There are 4 people, 2 people in the back and 2 people in the front. And she says, well, do you have an online order? And I said, no. She said, well, you have to leave, place it, and come back. And I said, okay. She said, you can download the app or do it online. And I'm sitting outside like, wow, this is really something. And people are walking past me, and they're going in, and they're walking right back out. And I just don't have the energy to tell every person that walks in, hey, they're not taking any orders. I just don't have the energy. So I just walk in and walk out like I did. But and then there's the hiring sign on the door. And there are the 24-hour locations that are closing at 12 and 2 because they just don't have the work. And they have the signs on the door, and it says due to employee shortage.
Yeah, and you got to think too, some of those people who used to do the hiring probably don't work either.
Oh, Teresa Tot says, I remember getting a raise. I was so excited to get 25 cents. Same. Same. And Anthony Arrington says, people have really gotten completely comfortable in this pandemic, which is so true. Yes. And yes, Michelle, these employers have to step out of their comfort zone if we are going to fill these slots. And I don't think we're nowhere near close to it, but we definitely have to talk about it. But we're not close. I don't believe we're close because I'm talking about restaurants, but we're also talking about your field is hospitality. So I'm talking about grocery stores, hotels, a lot of that. So good stuff. Any final thoughts?
Well, I'll just say this. If you haven't already followed me, I am on Instagram, I am on Facebook, and my website is valadiahr.com. If you Google me, I'm on Google My Business. I made it very, very simple. Valadi is actually my middle name. It's shared by my mother, and it was given by my grandmother. So I felt like I was carrying on my family lineage by creating the company name Valadia HR. So
Love
please
that.
make sure you go and like. Thank you. I appreciate
Please,
being on.
please,
I'm looking forward to the rest of this podcast.
please follow her. She's she's got what you need for your business. She can help you. A lot of, as entrepreneurs and especially Black entrepreneurs, sometimes we do everything ourselves. It's just really hard sometimes. You're everything to your business, and she can really help you to mitigate some of your risk and help you to do things smarter. So definitely,
That's one of
definitely,
my favorite sayings. You can't get that time back. You do not have time to waste.
that's right.
So, I actually, if you wanted to book a discovery call so we can talk about how my services meet your needs, you can text me at 734-666-5009. Text the word discovery.
Thank you, Takesa. You stick around because I want you to join our discussion. But right now, we are about to get into some serious discussion. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. And what we're talking about are the spots we miss, mental health. Are you playing hurt? And we're going to bring in Janelle Vining. Hi, Janelle. I think you might be on mute.
Hello, everybody.
So, you guys, I wrote a blog, and that blog was called Are You Playing Hurt? And Are You Playing Hurt is, it's about, so think about an athlete. Think about an athlete. Think about an athlete who's injured. Maybe he injured his what they call it, the Achilles, the knee, ankle, something, right? And then that athlete continues to play on that injured part of his body or her body. They call it playing hurt. If you can see my little things, I can't see if you can see it, but they call it playing hurt. And playing hurt means that you are hurt, but you're still going on, but you need care. You need attention. And if we were to break our arms today or tomorrow or our ankles, no one would have to tell us to go to the hospital. No one would have to beg us to go to the hospital. You break something, you're going. You'll go by yourself. You don't need anyone to go with you. If you're hurting bad enough, you're going to see about it. But what about our emotional issues? What about emotional hurts? We just take those emotional hurts and we mask, we pretend, we dress it up, and we really have good faces. We have good poker faces, we have good smiles, we can put on good makeup, we can put on good clothes and stuff, but inside there's something missing. There's something hurting you. And when I wrote that, I thought this is going to be good conversation to have, because God wants us to play well. God wants us to play well, not hurt. And so I saved Janelle to talk about it, and Takesa to weigh in on it as well. But I want to really quick just go to an ad so that you guys can really see Takesa's ad here. So just bear with me one moment if I can find it. I guess I'll have to come back to it.
Oh, it's really fine, because the conversation, we need to talk.
I have
Good
it. I'll
talk.
just come back to it. Um, yeah. So the spots we miss. Are you playing hurt? What do you have to say about that, Janelle?
Well, I'll first just say definitely not a mental health professional, but glad to be here on the Spots We Miss. I have been, I'm an aspiring teacher of the visually impaired, and I have a passion to work for the deaf-blind. Um, I have worked with a lot of deaf-blind individuals and communities.
Mm-hmm.
Also, being an educational sign language interpreter for 15 plus years, I've been in and out of the of different special needs classrooms. And then I also had some time where I worked as a job developer, helping people who have special needs or disabilities to seek and find employment. So I've been in and out of the system as far as mental health is concerned, um, and connected to mental health professionals in that way. At the school, there are, of course, counselors. And then we also, as job developers, work with counselors as well to help people of any ability, to find the job that works for them and that is the best fit for them, which is, of course, what we've been talking about, how we've been hit in the pandemic. So I find it interesting. You were talking about when you get injured, an injury, and a lot of times physically, when we are injured, you can see someone is physically injured. Maybe they limp, or if they have like a brace, or
Mm-hmm.
you can usually physically see it. But with mental health, that's not always seen, and it's often been taught to kind of hide if there's an issue with mental health in our communities. If you even think back when mental health, there used to be institutions for those who had mental health issues that needed
Mm-hmm.
care, that actually needed care around the clock. And in our society, it has not been something that has been valued. Um, and so they just did away with them, shut them
Mm-hmm.
down. And
Yeah.
that had a big impact on our communities in general.
Yeah, I agree. Um, you hear the commercials, and the commercials ask you, have you been injured in an automobile accident? Yeah.
Yes.
Um, did you have a simple procedure that left you disabled? And
Mm-hmm.
then they give you that number to call on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But what about people? What about people who have mental issues, and it's not that simple always?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe there was a trauma, something happened. Everyone isn't walking around here with mental health issues, but there are traumas that happen in our lives, and traumas are not just like people think that PTSD is only for war veterans, right? Um,
Right.
but it's not. You can have something in your life that's so traumatic that it will leave you with a postpartum, or not a postpartum, but a post-traumatic
Yes.
stress disorder.
Absolutely. And
You know.
I love that you said that, because I think people forget anxiety, stress, they're all related to our mental health. Some
Hmm.
people want to just put that label of, I don't have mental health issues, I'm not crazy. It's not about being crazy. It's about self-care. It's
It
about
is.
learning how to know where you are and take care of yourself mentally, and take care of each other mentally, to make sure that you're able to be an active member of the community. We're here to be a part of the community and be able to give our best, no matter what our workforce looks like. And when we don't recognize those things, like you said, if you're not
Hmm.
tending to a hurt, then it's going to
Hmm.
get worse, and it can be debilitating. I mean, it can lead to a debilitating place where you are not
Yeah.
able. And that's true with PTSD or anxieties or stress.
And that's why I said, are you playing hurt? Because I want people to look at your mental health like an athlete looks at his physical health if he's
Mhm.
injured.
Abs-
Um, it could end an athlete's career
Absolutely.
completely
Hmm.
if they continue to play hurt. That's how awful that's how detrimental it is, but it's equally as detrimental when we as humans ignore
Absolutely.
our personal traumas.
Mhm.
One of the things I want to just go over a list, and by no means is this an exhaustive list, but I think about what people, when you are playing hurt, or if you are injured, emotional hurt, or emotionally injured, and there's the pain, right? Nagging, excruciating pain, right? And then after that pain, maybe there's a fear that builds up. We're afraid to re-injure that part of our body again, or there's that sensitivity to pain.
Yeah,
When you're in pain and when you're not feeling up to par, then guess what? You become withdrawn, right?
absolutely.
I wonder if I can share something here. I want to share something with you guys. Okay, let me see.
And you're not able to be involved like you might desire when you're not really taking
Mm-hmm.
care to pay attention to um, how is that mental health issue, or how am I when I'm not doing well with my emotional health, with my mental,
Yes.
how does that affect my performance? We don't take time and care or effort to pay attention to that.
Yes.
We can't give our best, and just like an athlete would have to tend to and go to the doctor and see what is it that you need to do to get better, we sometimes
Mm-hmm.
have to do that as well. And I love
Yes.
what you said about not everybody is just mental health, but a lot of us experience the traumas, and that still takes a reflective part, a reflective
Yes.
to maybe go see someone and talk to someone and figure out what do I need to do to move forward.
Mm-hmm. And so I just want to go over this list here. I just thought it was really helpful to kind of be able to assess our pain and to be able to say, okay, do I need to talk about this? Do I need to address this? So after the fear and after the pain, you're less active. There's loneliness, there's isolation. The injury affects your relationships because when you're in pain, pain affects intimacy. When you're hurt about something, you kind of just, isolate and you're by yourself. You don't want to be around people.
Right.
Then you're incapacitated. You don't have your body's full capacity. That right there makes us impatient to get better, earnestly ready to get back to our normal lifestyle. We're eager for change. And then ultimately, it can lead to depression as a result of the fear, the pain, the loneliness, the withdrawal, and the waiting to get better.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of like a course. One thing follows the other, like a ripple, a
Mhm.
spiral.
Yeah.
And I'm not, my degree is in arts and journalism. I'm not a mental health profession, but I have experience and I've been hurt and I've played hurt for most of my life,
Yeah.
if not knowing it, thinking I could just, handle it. But I just believe that God really wants us um, to live freer. He wants us to be free. He wants us to be able to not always have to look back at those traumas.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And part of the process of that is taking a look at what has my past looked like. I'm not a
Mhm.
professional either in mental health, but I can say that again, I've also experienced it in my own life. I have family members who have some mental health problems, and just like when all of the institutions were shut down, those people
Mhm.
who needed care around the clock 24/7, that had an impact. They may have become homeless. There's lots of things that may have happened. um,
Yeah.
and again, in my own family, there's been people who have those challenges of the depression or anxiety,
Mhm.
uh, even the more significant ones, like having schizophrenia or schizoaffective. Those things, they have an effect on all of us, and if we have even just a relationship with them. I love that you said that, Niketa.
Yeah.
relationship that you have with people, it influences you, and if that's your family member or if that's your friend that's going through that, and we have as a society labeled mental health equals crazy, we have to get away from
We
that.
got to get away from
We
that.
have to get away from that and embrace one another and see, what can I do? How can I help this person? What way can we be helpful? We don't have to be mental health professionals, but we all should be helpful to one another and seeing one another so that we can play, but play not hurt.
Right. This brings me to something. I couldn't agree with you more. First and foremost, this brings me to something. When I remember having devotion a while ago, and God said to me, "Look for what they don't show."
Good.
Yeah, look for what's underneath the surface, because we're masking pretty good, And I think a lot of people, people, especially, and not to, come for our men. But, the guys just don't want to walk around telling you they're hurt. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they don't. But we have to look for what people don't show. And and all of us don't like to just, be looked at as weak, because I think we look at things like that as a weakness. But we have to create an environment, and we have to create an atmosphere where people feel comfortable, where we feel like a safe place.
Yes.
And someone can say, guess what? I am struggling.
Yes.
I am having a hard time. And we have to create that atmosphere. We have to create that environment to help one another. And I was saying to you guys the other day that we almost have to look for trouble.
Yeah, you kind of do. You walk by people and you turn your head because you don't want to take on that story. But sometimes you really kind of have to just let somebody talk. Because, I don't know about anybody else, but from my observation, I feel like this pandemic has been the trigger of all triggers. And, if there's anything that you have underlying that, that we can't see, or you have anything that you buried or didn't deal with, you're dealing with it now, because you're at home, you're off work, or you're everything that's happened is called into question everything before, what's going on, what's doing, so there's a lot of, deeper traumas that have been brought up, in this pandemic. And that may be another reason why people aren't going back to work, if they, don't get the health care, the mental health, or don't even want to be vulnerable enough to tell someone that they need help. And if you're lucky, and if God bless you with the right support group, then you got to start, and if you have the right support group, people to hold you accountable, the people to listen to what you have to say when you have to say it, no matter how crazy it may sound, and not judge you for it. The safe place Niketa spoke of. Those are the things, just genuine kindness. We spend so much time on blinders, right? We just spend so much time going and going and going. And we've buried so much stuff because to sit on it or talk about it for too long is viewed as weak, right? But what are you talking about? I had an employer once. I was telling her I was upset about something that happened. It might have been about a year, but it felt some kind of way. And she's like, nobody's thinking about that but you. I said, because it didn't happen to you.
Right.
You don't know what people are dealing with right now, what triggers they have, what struggles they have that are happening as a result of this pandemic. And a lot of people, the pandemic hit and they didn't know which way to go. So, if you have the ability to find a good support group, find even one person that you trust, tell them what you need, tell them what you need help with, tell them how you're feeling, and you'd be surprised. They might even be feeling the same way too.
Now, Niketa, you bring me to another thought. You were in the hospitality industry for over 20 years, and that's even your niche now. How can employees, because we talked about this a little before, but how can employees support? How can managers and employers support their team when they notice something? When they kind of sense that, maybe something else is going on. This is not the job. This is something else. How can management and employers support their employees?
So instead of turning their face or turning their head when they notice something's off, that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, my biggest piece of advice is slow down. Oh, excuse me. I actually got off camera for a second because I couldn't stop coughing. I apologize.
That's okay. Take your time.
Um, but one thing I suggest is take a moment, slow down, pay attention. And it may not be the conversation that you want to have, but just even if you have to fake it for 5 minutes, you may save somebody's life. You may not know, you don't know if their spouse is threatening a divorce. You don't know if they're about to lose their home. You don't know if they just, fail an exam for the 15th time. You have no idea. And sometimes it can mean the world if you just listen. And I've had numerous employees who just said, how did you know? How did you know something was wrong? And all I could say was I felt it. And instead of running away from it, I said, well, what can I do? And you can't be, like whatever, because that ruins the connection between the employer and the employee. But what if you're doing the trash run, or what if you got to go outside and, get buggies or carts or clean up the lot from last night's party? Take somebody with you that you feel, not having the best day, or, switch jobs for the day. Hey, why don't you do this and I'll do this? And then you watch their face light up because you switched it up, changed the monotony, you distracted them enough to realize it's not that bad. The more you focus on it, what do they say? You are what you think, or you become what you think the most about, right?
Yeah.
So, you can sit with it, but don't sit too long. And as an employer, if you can help the person next to you not sit there and just wallow in it, the results are unmeasurable.
I was talking to a pastor about the podcast, and I was telling him what it was about, and are you playing hurt? I was explaining what "are you playing hurt" meant, and he said, "Yeah." He said we have to take care of one another, and he said he tells his congregation, "You can't be an asset if you're a liability. You can't be an asset if you're a liability. If you are playing hurt, you're not 100%."
Right.
And you are not going to be effective toward the overall goal.
Exactly.
You are not going to make a substantial impact toward the overall goal. You're more of a liability than an
And then
asset.
you become even more stressed out because you're underperforming.
That's right.
So,
That's
so you
right.
add a whole nother level of stress to what you're already stressing. It's like, man, I've been messing up lately. The boss is going to fire me. What am I going to do? Next thing you know, you've got more issues, or even, unfortunately, some people go to mental or substance abuse. So,
Yeah.
you've got to be kind. You've got to, stop walking around with blinders on and slow down a little bit, you
Janelle,
have
what did
to.
you want to add?
I love that. I was just going to say, it's kind of like what the pastor was saying, and you guys saying, you got to take a break, you got to slow down. If we think about it, when we hurt ourselves physically, we have to. It's not an option. We have to slow down.
Yeah.
And so we need to do the same with one another. We need to
Yeah.
not be afraid to share our story, but also, in order to be a safe place, we need to not be the people that turn our heads, but be willing to ask, because if we are the body of Christ, we do believe in God's word, which says we've overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And the word of your testimony is so important. And so what you're going through is not to hinder you ever in terms of your relationship with God. It's always to move you to a place of freedom. But we can't, right? Just like we can't, if I broke my ankle, if I don't do the things that the doctor has told me to do, I'm not going to get better to be in the game, to be able to play, to give my best. And so we have to, as a community, be able to come together and see the importance of that slowing down, also of sharing our story, because your story is not the same as someone else's, and we need each other to share, right?
We do.
I love Valadia having just insight into companies, and especially at this time, Niketa, this is a great time for the spots we miss, because for companies to be able to contact someone like Valadia and get insight, like more insight to this is a doctor of what is happening, right? And there's a lot of people that are having these difficulties of feeling like they don't have a safe place, or feeling
Right.
like they can't give their best because they are hurting. And it's a problem that we have to be the ones to face together. And if we look
Mhm.
at it as a body, that we are a body operates as one. If we get better at that in across the board, whatever profession we're in,
Yeah.
then we can
Exactly.
start to see some healing in that area, and our body working
Yes.
better together.
Yeah. We're jointly fit together. We are
Right.
jointly fit together. And if I'm hurt, then you can't perform the way you need to perform. You know, I think that just for Lady HR, I think the beautiful thing about what you do, Chikesa, is that you don't just have the alphabets and the education, but there's that sensitivity and those soft skills that people really need right now. We need that more than ever. One of the things the reason why I wanted to talk about this, I didn't want to send people on, this frustration, to feel frustrated or to feel defeated, or pity themselves, or or even to think, wow, I'm really jacked up. No, that's not what I wanted to do. This is coming from a woman who has been broken to the core,
Mhm.
okay, because of emotional suppressed injuries or hurts. And I want to give you guys some much needed grace,
Mhm.
um, to understand that there are people here who care, and also to consider that, sometimes we condemn ourselves so much, and we have patterns, and some of our patterns are destructive. But I want people to understand that there is a reason for some of the destructive patterns that you might feel that you have, or if you feel like, there are things about you, there are things that, you feel like you want to change, you don't like. I just want to give you some grace to say, don't be so hard on yourself. Understand that you could possibly be playing hurt. Figure out where it started. Think about when that behavior started. When did I start becoming so withdrawn? When did I kind of cop out on life? When did I kind of just not, give as much attentiveness as I needed to? And to give yourself some grace, but don't just give yourself that grace. Take some steps. Do something about it. Take care of yourself, because somebody needs you. Somebody needs the person that is you. They don't need me. They need the person that is you. Your face, your voice, your demeanor, everything about you is the very thing that somebody else out here needs. And if
Absolutely.
you're sick and you're emotionally hurt and bruised and broken, you're not going to even have the energy to be what they need, right? So,
Absolutely.
anybody want to give some final thoughts? Any comments? Any final thoughts?
I love the opportunity just to talk about it. I think it's important when we're talking about, this is not for you to feel discouraged, but a place that's safe, where we can give you some maybe ideas that could help on your journey. I think what's important is to get help, to reach out, and also for those who are not hurting, like these ladies have mentioned, look for what is not being shown,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can be of help. But I think in moving forward, an important step for all of us is being able to, whatever situation you're facing, assess it, being able to look at that situation and have um, space and time to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
assess the situation. Then you have to accept what's happening, accept that situation that's going on, no matter what it is. It could be anxiety, it could be depression, but we have to spend time. That takes time. And the accept process is a lot of times where you lose people. That's also where we need each other to support each other through that acceptance process, whatever it looks like. And then as we accept it, maybe there will be some tears, maybe there will be some anger, maybe, you know, be some time with getting together with your friends and, I don't know, boxing or get some aggression out. But then you can make adjustments. You can make adjustments that are going to work for you, that are going to help you to become a better you. And I think that those three things, keeping those in mind, will help all of us to be a better us. If we can all support each other and be a safe place and do the best that we can all get into the game and play not hurt.
I love that. So there are 3 A's. Assess it, assess the situation, accept what you must accept, and then make the necessary adjustments. I love that, Janelle. Thank you so much. Chikesa, final thoughts?
I'm going to piggyback off of that because I went through that process. We actually talked recently about
We did.
what I'm doing after the last part of that, but we'll leave that off today's podcast. I want to say 3 things that I think work interchangeably between mental health as well as employees or people searching for employment and employers. I think all 3. The first thing is be kind. I can't say that enough. Do as much as you can with kindness. There's always a way. There's always a way that you can reach or connect with someone in a very small way, and you'd be surprised at the impact. Do the work. Do the work. I can't say that enough. So if it's your mental health, like you said, I think I talked to you the other day, I recommend the book F Depression. I listened to the audiobook, and I listened to the other audiobook called Own Your Greatness about, shucks, I forgot it that quickly. Own Your Greatness. And then, but they make you do the work. They make you pinpoint your triggers. They make you sit down and pinpoint your trauma so that you can assess and accept them. And then you start to adjust. And I actually bought a punching bag. That's pretty funny that you said that. And then the last thing, celebrate the wins. It's a win for you, even to be aware of what your triggers are, your struggles, or even that's a celebration right there. Celebrate the wins to continue to motivate yourself, to continue to do the work, and please continue to be kind.
That's good. That's good. And I think it's important to find the celebration. So I love that you said that too, because right, we always know God is good even when things are challenging. And
yes, He is.
We just have to find it. And if we're not assessing the situation correctly, sometimes we struggle finding it. But that's why we need each other. You know, that's where we come in and share, hey, this just happened to me last week. This just happened to me today. And it's okay. Let's put on some punching gloves. Let's punch it out. Get some aggression out. It's okay to be angry, right? God says be angry and sin not. But then it's a matter of, like you said, let's then look back at it, assess it again. Now that we've gotten some anger out, or now that we've gotten some tears out, let's assess it, just accept it, release it, and celebrate. I love that celebration part because that is how we overcome. We definitely through praise, through worship, through celebration. So I think that's awesome.
I want to grab just a couple of comments here. Community Advocate Network says, great topic, guys. And then Jerome says that he was experiencing the same thing. Jerome and I go way back to my days of Highland Park. And he said he was experiencing some things like that when we were talking, and he didn't have anyone to talk to. And it's it's that way with most men. You know, men are just, you know, there has to be that atmosphere for men that safe place for men to be able to open up and talk. And Kathy, who I call Sandy, she said this has been very helpful to me, especially right now. And I'm glad to hear that. We wanted this topic and this conversation to really be a blessing to you, you guys, and so we could just have safe talk, safe place. To be able to share real feelings. We are not superhuman. I don't care how much we might want to, you know, feel like we are. Even on our best days, we are as filthy rags. On our best day, we're not superhuman, and we need God every step of the way. I just couldn't even imagine trying to be healed without him. But you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Spots We Miss. We're doing this every Saturday at 4 p.m. will be the same platforms. Make sure your notifications are turned on. Please like and subscribe to our channels. Dippity Dewdrops on Facebook, Niketa Nikol on Instagram, and Dippity Dewdrops on Twitter as well, and Niketa Nikol on YouTube. So thank you, ladies, so much. It's such an honor to have you on the show because, you guys are good. You guys are really good at, what you do. And I just want to quickly give some history on Jay. I call her Jay. I probably said that a few times in the podcast and forgot to say Janelle, but Jay and I went to school together. We went to Madonna University together, and Jay was studying sign language, and I was studying, I want to say English journalism at the time. And I'm talking about Jay and I would have these. Well, first of all, we stayed up all night studying, and I told Jay about what I told you about a month ago when you were here. I said, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have passed that class that we had because Jay just never let go. And I remember one time we had finished studying maybe about 7 a.m. and we had class at 8:30. I went in and I aced that test. And every week we did that. Every single week we did that. And I just didn't have the energy. But Jay would be like, well, didn't you think we should just go over this chapter one more time? And I would be like, oh my God, it's, like the birds are chirping. But Jay, my writer, and let me tell you something, we'll have to talk one day on this podcast about the worship experience that we had on campus. And oh my God, what those were some days. But that's Janelle. That's Janelle.
Yes. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, ladies, so much. This is wonderful. These are the spots we miss, and I am your host, Niketa Nikol. Thank you so much for joining us, and please come back and see us again. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Niketa Nikol, and I'm starting my very own podcast called The Spots We Miss. Together, we'll go on a journey of self-discovery, evolution, as we forget those things that are behind us and press into those things that are ahead of us, uncovering the spots we missed. Join me June 26, 2021 for real talk, real ideas, real love. See you there.